In this video with a really simple example, I want to show you how you can use Google BigQuery to first of all run your SQL queries and then train a machine learning model on your data and then use it for your data. But before getting started, what is Google BigQuery even in the first place? Well, for the first time, if you start using Google BigQuery, you think that it's something really complex and complicated. But believe me, it's not that complex because BigQuery at its core is just a big data warehouse. But what is data warehouse? A data warehouse is simply just a big database. When you have gigabytes and terabytes of data, when you want to do complex queries, it's not very efficient and it takes time, maybe several minutes or even hours to get the result from not so complicated query. And the reason is that the data is so massive. It's gigabytes or terabytes of information. So when it comes to executing big queries, this is where you can use Google BigQuery. So see, at its core, it's just a big database. It's nothing special. But over time, a lot of functionalities and different features have been added to the core, like running machine learning models on the data or creating pipelines or scheduling some events. Okay, let's get started to see how we can first of all load our data into BigQuery and then how to execute our SQL queries and finally train a machine learning model on our data to be able to predict the sales. Okay, let me close this, and here we are in Google Console or Google Dashboard. The very first thing you need to do, it's better to just come up with a new project. So here in this panel, I can create a new project. I can say test BigQuery. That's all. And it's better to use hyphen. I can even edit the project ID. Let's refresh it. That's good, I think. We can add an organization. I don't have any organization. That's fine. Just create a new project. Wait a couple of seconds for that. Select the project. And now here we are in this test BigQuery project. Depending on what services you have used before, you may see BigQuery already here. But the best way to search for BigQuery service is through the search panel. So here I just need to search BigQuery. And here is BigQuery. Now here first of all we need a data to work with. So I'm going to use a sample sales data from Kaggle website. I'll put all the queries, commands, and all the links needed for this video in the description, so check the description for that matter. But right now I just need to download this data. You can of course upload your data or get it from other databases or get it from data streams, but here we simply just want to upload a file from our local machine. There are different ways to do that. So one way is coming to this section, Explorer, and in datasets, we can create a new dataset. I'm going to call it sales data. I don't touch other configurations here. Go with the default. And now we can go to the dataset. Basically, this is a database. So here we can create a new table to import our data from CSV to that table. So create table from, you can choose upload here from Google Drive, from Amazon S3 or other storages. So I'm gonna go with upload, select the file, and here is the sales data sample.csv. I downloaded a couple of minutes ago. Here the data set or the database actually is sales data, the project name, and here you can come up with a name for the table. So here you can say sales data raw. It means that we haven't done any analytics on the data itself. For the schema, we select auto detect. So based on the content of the data and the columns it has, it's gonna come up with the column names as well as the type of the columns. So whether they're string or integer or whatever. We can add some partitioning here, but we just want to skip it for now. Create a table. Go to table. So here we have our own table and we can have a preview for that. Here's the data we have with all the columns. Now if I come to Classic Explorer, so there are two different kinds of explorers. Here in Classic Explorers, we can see different options. Here we have notebooks, pipelines, and here we have our sales data database, basically. If I go back to the normal Explorer, here also I can see my data sets. I need to refresh it. So the only data set or database I have in this project is this sales data. I don't have any pipelines, and this is what we want to work with for now. If I go to this database, refresh, we only have one table, and this is the data we have there. So now what we want to do is basically, it's the ETL process. Extract, transform, and load the data. Extract was exactly what we did. Uploading the data and then extracted the data and put it in the table in the database. That's extract part from ETL. Now we need to do some processes, some transformations on the data, and then put it in another table. Transform and load. Now let's take a look at the data itself to get a big picture from the data. It has a lot of columns here, but we don't need all the columns. So let's create a new query here to just get the most important columns. So first of all, I'm gonna get order number, then I'm gonna need sales for that order, then the country, then product line, order date, and as you can see here I have the project name, then the database or dataset name, and finally the table's name. I can even remove this part for the project's name because we are already in the same project, so it knows where to look. So if I run this query, as you can see, the sales data is about the orders. So at each line or at each row, we have an order. But as you can see, here we have different rows with the same order number. For instance, when somebody orders something in a website, the order includes different items. But in this data set, we have those items in different rows. So it means that we have different items ordered for the same order number. So if we want to know the total sales for that specific order, we need to combine all the sales for the same order number. We can do this using group functionality in databases in SQL query, and then sum all the sales. Let me show it to you. So here I can say group by order number. If I get rid of these columns and use some aggregator here, and I need to put limit at the end of the query, and if I run it, here I'm gonna see the whole sales for each order. Now I want to train a machine learning model on the data to be able to predict the total sales for each product line in a specific country for a specific date in the future. So it means that I need to group all the orders that have the same country, same product name, and the same order date to get the total sales for that product line and for that country in that date. That way I have the data in that shape, and then I can train my machine learning model on that data. And later I can use it, give that information to the model. I can say that for this country, for this product line, and at this date in future, predict the total sales for me. So here is the query I need to have basically. So I'm grouping the data based on product line, country, and month and year. But one thing is that I have order date. I don't have year or month, so I need to extract month and year from the order date like this. And then I'm gonna have the total sales for all the orders with the same country and product line and with the same month and year. And also I can calculate the total quantity. I just need to fix the table name here, sales data, sales data raw. And if I run this query here, you can see that for year 2004, for February, country Belgium, product line vintage cars, the total sales is something around 8,000, whatever the currency is. And also the total quantity is 72. And again, for this country at the same year, but here the product line is different. So now I can train a regression model on this data to be able to predict the future. But before that, let's do the final part in our ETL pipeline. The second part in ETL is transform, or basically the processes we did here, grouping or summing the sales data, And finally, we need to load the final data, or basically save or store the data into our data warehouse. So I just need to add another line on top of this, and it's going to be create or replace table. I need to come up with a new table here, sales data set, and the table's name would be sales data transform. And let's not forget about as. So that way we create a new table and then we fill it with this query. Okay, let's run it. It took around 2 seconds to do that. And then when I come to data sets and refresh it, I'm gonna have still one data set. And then in my data set, now I'm gonna have two tables. First one is for the raw data and the second one is for the transform data. And this is called basically ETL pipeline or data warehousing. There are different terms for what we did here, but you saw it's really simple, it's just running some queries. Now it's time to train our machine learning model on the data and then predict the future. And the amazing part is that we're going to do this again with writing some queries. We don't need any other tools or features to do that. We just need the query section here. So here is the query I need to have. I just need to fix this sales data. Here, first of all, we're going to create the model for the first time. So create or replace model is going to be in the sales data sets. The name for the model would be sales prediction. And then here I'm going to use sales data transformed as the source of the data to train the model. Here for the options, I'm going to use model type linear regression. So when you want to predict something in machine learning, we have clustering, classification, and regression in most cases. So when it comes to predict a continuous number, for instance, a sales number, we usually use regression. So linear regression would be the model. And another important thing when it comes to training a model, we need to have some features and we need a label column. Here in this example, the features are all the columns, the product line, the country, the date, and the label is the sales, because we want to predict the sales amount at the end. And then we select year, month, country, product line, total quantity, and total sales. Now I want to limit it to all the data before 2005 because the data is limited and I want to keep a part of data for testing purposes. So let's run it to see what it does. And that's it. Let's take a look at the execution details. It took 11 seconds to do that. Now if I come to Class Explorer, here if I take a look at sales data, here in models, I'm gonna have one model here, sales prediction. And you can see the information for that model. Now let's use this model to predict future. But let me tell you that this is just a simple example. The data wasn't big enough to train a reliable model, and also predicting future is not that easy. Even with gigabytes of information, even in that case, it's not possible to predict the sales for future. But sometimes for some companies, there are some patterns for selling items, and that way modeling is very important because based on those patterns, you can predict the sales for the future. For instance, there are a lot of companies that their sales go up during summer, for instance, and it goes down for winters. That way there is a pattern for summers and winters. And based on that, when you train a model, the model can predict the sales for the next couple of years pretty good. But in this example, the result is not even close to reality. So this example is just for educating purposes. Now the last piece is using the trained model to predict future. So here is the query we need to have. I just need to fix this table name, sales data transformed. Here I'm gonna use sales data, sales prediction model. So here, to be able to use the trained model, I need to use ML predict. It only works here in BigQuery, and that's amazing that inside the query you can use some functions for machine learning. And here I'm gonna use all the data more than 2004 because first of all, the model is trained on all the data before 2005. So there is 1 year overlap between the data used for the training and the data we're going to use for prediction. That way you can see if the numbers are close enough or not. And then the rest of the data, all the data over 2005, are going to be new for the model. So the prediction probably is going to be really bad. But let's test it in practice. So I just need to run it. So here, the actual number, and this is the predicted number. So here it's like 4,000, and here we have 10,000, which is not really good. It's 2,000. Here we have 37. It's not even close. Here we have 23,000. Here we have 18,000. You see, it shows that probably we haven't picked the right features to predict sales. It seems that there is no relation between the product line and the country and the sales. Even if you know the product line and the country and the month, there is no way you can figure out the amount of sales. You need to have more information and more features to be able to predict the future. But the whole purpose of this video was showing how you can use BigQuery to upload your data, create your ETL pipeline, and then how to use machine learning models. I hope you enjoyed this video. Until the next video, take care.